How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show again. How are you?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm not too bad. Where are you?
I am in Montreal right now. I'm in my apartment where I have spent the whole year on this couch, on this exact same couch. I've spent basically the whole 2020 and start of 2021. So, yeah, I'm
How
here.
how has it been?
It's actually been not too bad for me. I got to learn how to play guitar. I worked on new songs. I learned a bunch of covers. I did a few live shows on Instagram and things like that. So I stayed connected with fans, and it actually went by pretty fast. So I'm lucky I was able to keep doing what I love in a different way for sure. But at least I got to play music.
I'm excited to hear this, to talk a little bit about the record and to hear some music from it. But it is a strange thing because typically you'd put out a record, and if not the day right afterwards, but like 3 weeks before, be going on the road. And you'd be touring and
Yeah.
you'd be touring and you'd be touring, you'd be releasing it, you'd be in here at 6 in the morning doing the show and all that stuff. How are you finding putting out this record, which you've worked on for 3 years, without any of that stuff? Is it a bit anticlimactic or anything?
A little bit, especially given the fact that I write songs thinking about performing them live. Like I write them keeping that in mind always, because I find that music in general, and especially my music, really comes to life when it's performed in a live context. That's where it makes the most sense to me, and I love performing live, and it's my favorite part of what I do. So there's definitely something sad about the situation I'm in right now, but at the same time, I've worked on this album for so long that there's also so much excitement, and yeah, I'm really happy to be putting it out. And we're working on a live stream event right now where we're going to be performing all the songs from the album for the very first time, and it's happening April 29th. And so I'm still feeling like I'm working on a live version of the show, which compensates for the fact that I don't know when I'm going to tour again. But at least we have this big show that we've been working on for weeks, and that we've put so much effort and energy into. And I think it's going to be amazing. So at least I have that kind of live feeling that with the show that we're working on. So I'm excited most of all.
Yeah, and you mentioned April 29th, you're doing the Phoenix Experience stream across North and South America, which I know it's not the same thing as doing a live show. Are there upsides to doing a live stream?
There are tons, and I was a little bit afraid of the whole idea at first, just because I had never done anything like that. But there are tons of upsides because we really we took this opportunity and really turned something that could have been just like a regular show into a full experience where we had fun with a lot of different set designs, with cinematic moments, very intimate moments, and then bigger moments, full band with other with tons of different music arrangements and lights and really beautiful images. So we really got to have fun with a production that we couldn't have worked with if it was a normal show. So I think, and that's also why we called it the Phoenix Experience, because it's not really a normal show. It's not, obviously not a music video, it's a live stream. So everything is performed live, and there's really this live feeling to it. But we had so much fun with the visual part of it. And I think that's a big upside. And it's something that I've discovered doing it. But it's definitely been so much work, but it's been incredible. And I'm excited for everyone to see it because I think it's going to be amazing.
Can I ask about a lyric on the record?
Of course.
I had to burn everything that I was just to come back like a phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Well, so in the context of the song, the song Phoenix is about needing to work on yourself before being able to welcome someone into your life. Um, and that's something that speaks to me a lot, because I think that you can't love someone properly if you don't learn how to love yourself first. But in a bigger context, so that's for the song, that's what the lyrics mean. But in a bigger context, and the reason why I called the album Phoenix is because for me, whenever there's growth somewhere, wherever there's an evolution, there's also a part of sacrifice. There's also a part of something you need to let go of. And the whole creative process behind this album has been about a lot of curveballs and learning tons of new things and working on myself on a professional level, on a personal level. It took 3 years to make, so a lot of stuff happened. And I think throughout this evolution and this growth, there was also parts of me that I had to let go of, and and relationships I had to set aside and stuff like that. And that's also what these lyrics mean to me. I had to burn who I was to be able to grow and step out of that comfort zone and grow into something else and evolve into something else.
What it's about. What did you have to get rid of?
Well, so as I guess on a personal level, I had to set aside a few relationships in the past few years. But on a professional level, I think first of all, this album has been a huge liberation for me on a lot of levels because first of all, I learned how to co-write for this album. I had always been very, very protective of my own songs. I had written everything by myself before this album. And when I started writing the album, I felt like I wasn't going anywhere and I needed to surround myself with other people. And so I started co-writing and I surrounded myself with my little team and we worked on this record together. And that was a big learning process for me because I had never really worked with anyone else co-writing songs. And for some reason, this album is the most personal. I mean, it's my first album, but it has the most personal songs I've ever written on the album. And I wrote them with other people, which is a little bit ironic since I would have thought that when you write things by yourself, they might be a little bit more personal, but I guess having the opportunity to have this process be conversational, to be something that's super interactive, to let other people in, I think that for me was something very new.
But isn't that a bit scary? You know, like, it's one thing to feel I think when you feel a very powerful emotion, maybe it is about somebody that you love or somebody that you once loved or a loss that you've experienced or a change that's happened in your life. You can sort of shroud those experiences and those feelings in metaphors in lyrics. You know what I mean? Like, that's something you can do. So when you get on stage, you know the true meaning of the song, but the people are only getting a certain kind of filter, right? But when you're co-writing, you have to share the raw tape with somebody else. Isn't that a bit?
It's super scary. Yeah. And that's something that was definite. And that's why I wrote this album with people that are very close to me. And I've been in a few writing sessions where I was with new people that I had never met before. And that to me was so stressful and intense because I do write songs about very personal things. Writing has always been like a therapy for me. So I write about things that really, really matter to me. And so that's why I think that was also part of the process, understanding that, yes, I need to co-write with people that know me. And that's something that's been really helpful because I co-wrote most of the album with Jason Brando, who's my best friend, but also my manager. And he produced everything I released so far. So he knows everything about me already. So it's just been easy to talk about those things, as you mentioned.
Collaboration aside, how do you think you're different as an artist from when you first started to make this thing? 'Cause 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something that was extremely liberating for me with this album is that for the first time, I would say I really wrote the album thinking about myself rather than thinking of what people might be expecting from me, what I wanted to give away, like what I wanted people to see. And that's like, I guess like that's something that I've always lived with is like, oh, even at a very young age, kind of not knowing sometimes whether I was acting because that was my true impulse or because I knew what people were expecting from me and letting go of that huge burden and just writing this album for me because I knew I needed to access certain wounds that I had that I really needed to figure out through these songs was a huge liberation for me. And writing it, just thinking about myself and what I needed to do and which process I needed to go through to feel better about my music and about myself, that was the biggest growth for me throughout this process.
I want to talk a little bit more about that growth, and I want to play another song from the record. Take a listen to this.
Je quitte, mais je ne te quitte pas. Oui, je quitte, mais je ne te quitte pas.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Charlotte Cardin. Her new album, Phoenix, is out everywhere now. That's a song called Je quitte. So you're talking to me about expressing very challenging things, right? You know, letting go of who you once were, abandoning or moving on from some relationships, trying to figure out who you really are outside of other people's expectations of you. Things that are very personal, Charlotte, you know, very, very personal. And you have sort of two lanes that you can speak about them in some ways, you know? And because you write both in French and in English, how do I ask this now? Is there like, is it dependent on the emotion that you're experiencing, what language you'll write in?
It's a good question. I haven't really figured it out yet. It either comes out in French or in English. And I have noticed that whenever I write, I guess, sassier lyrics, they're always in English. But that's
sassier.
That's the sassier. Yeah, when I'm a little bit snappy or just like sassier in the lyrics.
Sure.
But I think it really depends. I've always found it much harder to write in French, and I think that's because I am closer to French than I am to English, because I grew up in French. I'm from Montreal, and my whole family.
But wouldn't that mean that you would write more honestly and openly in French if it's the thing you're the closest to?
Well, for some reason, I mean, on some levels, yes.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like I ask myself so many questions when I write in French that it's much harder for me to express something a little bit more spontaneously, or just, when I feel the emotion, it's harder for me to write it in French just because I'm struggling to find the perfect word, the perfect nuance of what I want to say. Whereas in English, there's something a little bit more spontaneous, maybe because I ask myself less questions when I write in English. But I'm not sure if it goes with the emotion or just, I'm still figuring it out. I write, it's easier for me to write in English, but I'm not sure why.
It's a bit surprising to me, you know?
Yeah, to me too, I must say. But I feel like maybe at one point it'll change. I don't know. I listen to music both in English and French, but I spend a lot of time writing in French. I just finish my songs in English much faster than I do in French. And that's why I have a lot more songs in English.
I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I was wondering about something the other day, because you were on La Voix, right?
Yeah.
Did you win?
No, I made it to the finals. That was in 2013, a while back.
I spoke to Dominique Fils-Aimé, who was also a finalist on La Voix, and she said something interesting to me. She said, "I'm so glad I didn't win." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I got to understand what I wanted to make in terms of music. I got to understand the path I wanted to take, the music that I wanted to make, without the obligations of having to do it right there." And I've never heard someone, so absolutely, hey? So I've never heard someone say they're so grateful for not having won something. Can you relate to that?
Oh my God. Not winning La Voix is the best thing that's happened. Like not only do you get to take the time that you need after you got the exposure, but you're not signed to a really aggressive contract with a bad label that wants to keep you tied to them forever. And it is a blessing to not win those shows, because you can do whatever you want after. I took 3 years before I even released one single song after La Voix. It's such a crazy experience. So many things happen, and it's not representative of the real career that you'll get as a musician, as an artist. And so taking the time that you need after those kinds of shows is so important. And you can't do that if you win.
But you get to see how it all works, though. You get to see how the sausage is made. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's once you're in the show.
Yeah, but if you don't win, you're like, oh, I know what I don't want to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think and to be honest, I can't think of many winners of those shows that have, really had an amazing career after. I think it's whether you win or not. I think if you're talented and you get the exposure and people will want to hear your music after. So that's why I think it's better not to win, because then you can do whatever you want.
Well, what I find, I guess the reason I bring this up, and maybe this is a good way to end things before we play the song, is that, that show is so judgmental by its creation. The format of the show is judgment. And that I would only imagine would lead you to then judge yourself constantly or feel judged by others. And in this music that you've written, I hear no judgment. Do you know what I mean? From others or even from yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been definitely working on that. And writing this album was also a part of me just allowing myself to access all of those emotions, whether they're shameful or they are bad or they're darker or they're sassy. Like, it's just about accessing those emotions that I needed to get out to feel better about certain things. And so I appreciate you saying that and hearing that on the record. I hope people hear the album and feel some kind of part of liberation for themselves as well, because it's been a huge liberating process for me to write this album. So.
And it's a very free record at a time when I think we all need a very free record. Mind you, with the freedom comes a plethora of emotions. Can you tell me about? We're going to play the live performance of a song you recorded for us, which I'm very excited for, by the way, because we used to have live songs every week and we haven't had them in so long. So this is like a pre-recorded live-ish thing. This is "Sad Girl." Tell me what the song is about.
"Sad Girl" is basically a revenge tale about a girl who has an infinite amount of sadness inside of her, and she accesses her strength through that vulnerability. And "Sad Girl" is obviously me, but I think "Sad Girl" is a lot of other people who just find their strength through their sadness and their vulnerability. And I think there's something strong about that, about allowing yourself to feel all that sadness to feel better in the end.
Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Charlotte Cardin's new album Phoenix is out everywhere now, and this is Charlotte Cardin performing "Sad Girl," recorded live for Q.
is deep, 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 deep. My love for you. What can a sad girl do? Take a look at your phone. You got a man up, yeah, I want you home. I'm new. I've been all alone, crying all the time. Baby, where you at?